The distressed, migrants, internally displaced persons don't drop from the skies, but they are part of the inevitable reality of the world we live in. With the outbreak of floods in 2012, leaving about 7 million displaced, over 300 killed, and over 500 houses completely damaged, the aftermath of what we see is the rising toll of internally displaced coping with the untold hardship that might have left these unfortunate folks to fate and denial of their fundamental human rights. The National Emergency Management Agency, which is established by the Act 12 as amended by Act 50. The National Emergency Management Agency is vested with powers to coordinate intervention and plan disaster management.
NEMA was established by an Act of the National Assembly, Act 12, as amended by Act 50 of 1999, which vested the responsibility of coordinating response, mitigation, and preparedness in all disaster management activities in the country. The activity is more of a response to fire incidents, flood, communal conflict, the insurgency. You recall we had the 2012 flood, which was highly devastating, where more than 7 million people were displaced. Over 300 people lost their lives. Over 500,000 houses were completely destroyed or partially damaged. NEMA was able to manage the situation in collaboration with other agencies of government and non-governmental organizations and international community.
If you look at the majority of the work NEMA has been doing, basically you give them kudos for what they have been doing. And because most of the disasters are man-made. When you look at the security challenges in the southeast, the 2013 flood disaster, you find them everywhere in the nook and crannies of this country, trying to bring succor and relief to the inhabitants of those areas that are disaster prone. But we on our part need to assist them more.
In rising up to its statutory mandate, the Director General of the National Emergency Management Agency, Alhaji Sani Sidi, swings interaction with prompt intervention, bringing to bear his vast knowledge and experience in disaster management and risk reduction. But the tragedy of life continues to throw its curveballs, changing the nature of disaster from the preceding floods and fire outbreaks to insurgency. A more deliberate dimension in disaster outbreak, perhaps the most gruesome in Nigeria's checkered history. How was the National Emergency Management Agency able to rise to this rude and sudden reality which has left millions dead and thousands homeless?
In Nigeria, terrorism is new to us. It has become a reality, and we have seen the effects, the consequence of this terrorism, which is large displacement of human beings, destruction of property and means of livelihood. In our record from our situation room, about 1.4 million people have been displaced so far, mostly as a result of the insurgents. Half of those people that have been displaced are living in our formal camps, with most of them living in the host community. I must say that it's been very challenging, and we give thanks to God and the cooperation we have received from the State Emergency Management Agency, by extension the affected state government, and the large support that we have received from international community, non-governmental organizations and civil societies.
There is this global movement from much emphasis on response to equal or much emphasis in prevention and mitigation. And the desirable properties for mitigation and prevention are strengthening the existing early warning system, sharpening and preparing plans that you can use when a disaster strikes, having better information about the existing risk, the existing hazard, the associated risks, and the coping capacity of the people, and the way you can be able to respond when disaster strikes. NEMA fully understood the desirable properties that you need to put in place to ensure that you prevent and you mitigate disasters, so that when disasters come, they come with very minimal impact on the people. And these desirable properties, we have an entrenched system now of flood early warning system with the Meteorological Agency and the Hydrological Agency. Every year we receive informed information from them, and we use it to sharpen our flood early warning system.
In staying ahead of the emerging threats like terrorism, the Director General of the National Emergency Agency has come up with a more proactive strategy to contain any outbreak from the insurgency by creating additional offices in the states of the Federation, thereby curtailing possible losses.
Before now, we had only 6 zonal offices across the country in all the geopolitical zones, but because of the current situation that we faced, we have to create additional operational offices to post our staff so that they can bring the services of the agency closer to the affected people or community. So we have now created additional operation office in Gombe, which is in the northeast. We have one in Sokoto, we have one in Ado-Ekiti, and then we are in the process of creating one in Edo State, and then we have an existing operation office in Owerri. So this is all geared towards strengthening our response and coordinating disaster management in this country.
You can see as legislators, majority of us do not have the know-how or have an in-depth knowledge of what disaster management is all about. But the management of NEMA has been able to take us 2 refresher courses. I mean, even international courses in the United States, in Asia, the Asian Disaster Preparedness Center, for us to have a basic or one or two knowledge about what disaster management is all about. And with this, whenever they have any new challenges, especially when it comes to appropriation, in assisting them to further enhance, for them to cover the entire depth of the country, I think we have been able to work cordially between the committee and the agency.
Another consequence of the insurgency has been felt in the migrant crisis. The federal government has to manage with migrants now returning from Chad, Cameroon and Niger Republic. Though this has created more strains in the IDP camps, but the National Emergency Agency has been able to manage this crisis by ensuring that some of them are safely absorbed by the host communities.
We had immigrants that are Nigerians that migrated from Niger, and they are Nigerians, they went through Niger and come back to Nigeria through Gaidan border, and they are staying in the host community and camps. We have houses that have been given by the state government as accommodation. We have created schools with the state government and then the UN. We have clinics or whatever this, and we operate each camps on the basis of their communities, either by local government or by their communities.
With the growing task of emergency response, which is now multidimensional, multidisciplinary, and multisectoral, the National Emergency Agency, being a coordinating agency not left alone in this task of emergency intervention, is being able to build a strong synergy with all the actors like the United Nations Office, the Red Cross, the National Meteorological Agency, the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority, National Airspace Management Agency, and many others in the emergency intervention sector. This rare display of strategic team approach by the Director General of NEMA has contributed in no small measure in the federal government's emergency response in preventing disasters and also reduction in losses.
Don't forget that disaster management is multisectoral, is multidimensional and multidisciplinary, because it's not just one agency that is involved in disaster management. You must have cooperation and collaboration from other agencies that has one responsibility or other in managing disaster. We have had a very good collaboration and cooperation. We have been able to build a strong synergy with all the actors.
In recent time, the battleground for the repression of disasters has to a large extent been shifted to the northeastern state of Nigeria, with over 1.4 million people displaced. How has the National Emergency Agency been able to adopt a quick response strategy to the volatile region?
We are having 15 identified camps just inside Maiduguri, and in Adamawa we have about 2 or 3 camps. NEMA has played a critical role in providing relief materials directly to the camps, states, and the community. Ever since this, when this insurgency started in the north, throughout Borno, Yobe, Adamawa, we respond. There is one called what is the system of direct distribution, where when the whole town is ransacked and there is shortage of food, we will go and provide direct distribution of food relief material to that village or community. At the same time, where there is need to collaborate with the state government, we will give that relief material directly to the state for their quick intervention. And if we have camps, we collaborate with state government to manage the camps.
With the rising number of internally displaced persons, many of whom are now finding a new lease of life in relief camps where relief materials have been provided, in joint collaboration between the National Emergency Agency and the state emergency agencies. What is the humanitarian condition like in the displaced people's camps?
In Borno State, we have 12 camps. Totaling, we have more than 560,000 IDPs in Borno State alone. Before now, we had more than 10 camps in Adamawa State, but because of the successes that has been recorded by the military in the fight against insurgency, we got some of the IDPs voluntarily returning back to their respective community. Therefore, we were forced to collapse the camps from 10 to 6 in Adamawa State. We have more IDPs living in the host community than we have IDPs living in our formal camps, and that really throw out a very big challenge for the agency in managing and rendering assistance to those IDPs that are living within the host community.
So there is a serious good care management within the camps, and in terms of hygiene and protection, the Ministry of Health and the Department of Environment within Maiduguri play a very important role in providing soccer. Apart from the drugs and other like Doctors Without Borders that came and assist in giving medical attention to the IDPs.
The recently rescued women and children by the Nigerian military were literally left at the doorstep of the National Emergency Agency. After an inspection visit led by the Director General of NEMA, Alhaji Sani Sidi, it was found that most of the returnees are traumatized. NEMA has now put in place a highly specialized trauma counseling system, while it has also provided medical aid to them.
It is not a new thing to us as an agency. NEMA has been managing these IDPs in the last 4 or 5 years. These are people that were under the captivity of Boko Haram for a very long time. Therefore, they are highly traumatized. When we received them, they came highly malnourished, looking very hungry and sick. We have to register them, profile them, assess them alongside with our medical team to ensure that those that can be managed within the coping capacity of the medical personnel that are working with us in the camps were treated in the camps, and those that cannot be managed in the camps were taken to the Federal Medical Center, Yola. From the time we received them to now, they have improved significantly. Most of them from acute malnourishment, they have now stabilized. The nursing mother can now breastfeed their children, because when they came, they cannot even breastfeed because they too are also malnourished. They need special trauma counseling and psychological support. We have done that alongside with the experts We have different people who have different specialities working in the camps, so we've been able to take care of them. And they are now being taken care in a special way, in a special camp that has been organized just for the rescued women and children.
The National Emergency Management Agency has continued to make giant strides in areas of emergency intervention even beyond the shores of the country. Its contribution to disaster management in Africa and the entire world is now widely acknowledged. Nigeria is a signatory to the Yoga Frame of Action, one of the most influential emergency institutions in the world. It is also on record that in recognition of Nigeria's emergency intervention, the Director General of NEMA has chaired the West African Disaster Committee for 2 consecutive years.
Nigeria has one of the best emergency management outfits in Africa. The international community also recognizes us as one of the best emergency management outfits. I happen to chair the committee, the West African Committee for Disaster Managers, for almost 2 years. And this was as a result of the recognition by even the African Union of the role that NEMA plays in West Africa and African sub-region.
The National Emergency Management Agency has displayed an unwavering devotion to disaster prevention by prompt raising of yellow flags through early warning signs on disaster-prone areas with sensitization and awareness programs.
Don't forget that as an agency, we have had cause to intervene on behalf of the federal government of Nigeria in many countries by providing them relief assistance, food and non-food items, especially when they had issues of flooding or other crises in West African countries. And we also facilitate the formation of African Disaster Management Agency Committee, which is being championed now by the African Union. So these are some of the contributions that NEMA gives to the overall disaster management in Africa. Nigeria is a signatory to the Hyogo Framework of Action. We also implement all the 6 priority areas of Hyogo Framework of Action. We have established Disaster Risk Reduction Department, a full-fledged disaster risk reduction department, and this is a great achievement. Not all countries have achieved this. So I think we are more than happy to say that we are one of the best emergency management agency in this continent.
What is more, perhaps with better funding, this will further strengthen Nigeria's emergency team. This special documentary is on the federal government emergency intervention to disaster outbreak. It also highlights the contribution of the National Emergency Agency to risk reduction. A production of the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, for the sake of the distressed.